about Kilindi Iyi. I would like to introduce an amazing brother, okay, who has probably done more in his lifetime than probably 95% of any people. He's gone around the world, hit world spots all over, laid in the sarcophagus in the pyramids in Egypt. He's a martial artist. He's a master teacher. He's an extraordinary person. And you're going to get, I don't even know what word to use, awesome. I mean, it's above awesome. Understanding of this DMT spirituality. And so now I'd like to present to you Mr. Kilindi
Iyi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, we're going to get right into this because we only have an hour and 15 minutes has gone by already trying to find a room. I'd like to welcome you and thank you all for coming out to the Melanin Conference and choosing my little short workshop here. We're going to deal with some things probably most people haven't dealt with. Go into some areas of the African consciousness and spiritualism that have not been part of our experience. And I guess I could start at the beginning, but I can't start at the beginning because if I started at the beginning, it would be just too long. And forgive me for moving and glossing over things quickly, but I'll be here. You can ask me questions about some of the things you may have some difficulty with, because I'm going to deal with the difficult things today. I'm not going to deal with the same old mundane things that we usually have at conferences and things like that. Maybe that's why I'm not invited to a lot of conferences. And since I'm here, I'm going to hit them with the hard stuff today. So you're going to get the cream of the crop. We could bring it all the way from the Sirius star system to Mars to the Earth, but we don't have time for that. So we're going to have to start with the Earth and crack this nut right where we are. Africa is the birthplace of people on this planet. But it is not this planet that we are from. We're from the stars. We're made from stardust. We came here. The Earth is a seed planet. It's not a planet that is our original home. We come from the Sirius star system. A planet called 11Sep04, which is what we view Sirius as behind the Sirius star system. Through wars with entities that are in the galaxy, have been for billions of years, we had to run to Mars. Mars was destroyed, we came to the Earth. The Earth, when we first came here, some of us, because there's 27 different humanoid types of people. We're not just one people. We may think we are, we may say we are, but as DNA is revealed to us, we'll see that some of us are different. Some of us came very recently, others came in a remote past. Some of us are reemergence after a great cataclysm happened. 65 million years ago, a big asteroid hit the Earth, and it was moving at such velocity that in the first second and a half, it was 5 miles into the planet in the Yucatan. It threw up dust moving at Mach 7 and blotted out the sun. But this dust is what brought about vegetation, the dinosaurs, the Earth that we know it today. But something happened, a climatic change happened. Africa was in its inception, great rainforests, jungles, great jungles from the bottom of Africa to the top of Africa. But slowly over time, Africa became drier and drier and drier. Now we lived in these great rainforests, and we had a fruitarian diet. It was basically a mono diet, but we had several fruits in there that we ate. We were fruitarian. But as the continent dried up, it produced the great grasslands. Grasslands first came about on the African continent and pushed us environmentally from the great rainforest into the grasslands. The grasslands produced, and I'm moving over this real quick, it's very intricate, but the grasslands produced ungulate animals that sojourned on this grassland. You know, you had your cows, your bison, your wildebeest, your ibex, your antelope, and what these different animals did when they were on the grasslands were eating the new cereal grains as we did. Our diet became something different. We became omnivorous. We started to experiment with different foodstuffs. We moved from just that fruitarian thing to a diet where we were hunting small rodents because we became pack hunters. Small rodents, insects, different types of cereal grains that we encountered, wheat, barley, millet, rice, wild grasses. And then we started dealing with the animals on the great grasslands, you know, the cows and things like that, bison, wildebeest. We started hunting like that. And these dynamics between the hunting and gathering are what produced much of the dynamic of the city-states that came later. In other words, the men were basically hunters. You know, we have the whole understanding nowadays that we talk about women's ability to have a greater verbalization than men do. Men can't attach to their feelings verbally. Many times a woman asks you what you're feeling, you can't verbalize it. You don't know, because in the infancy of men hunting on the great grasslands of Africa, it was a paradigm to have silence and stealth. In other words, if you and the guys are out and you all are hunting, you don't want to be, hey, what's happening, what's going on, you know, talking and loud. It was, you know, quiet. So we developed signals of facial signals, hand signals, body positioning, and things like that. You see in East Africa, you see the pictures, you see the men, they're standing on one leg like this. And they usually have their spear and their shield and things like that, especially in East Africa.
Oh, sorry.
They have their spear and shield. But the female dynamic of that was a gathering, partnership, social dynamic that had to do with verbalization. In other words, the women, in dealing with the flora of the particular places that they were at, you know, they got to talk. They got to say, is this the same flower that we picked last September? You know, it had purple petals, but the inside of it had little dots in it. This one doesn't have the little dots in it. This one has a more smooth type of configuration to it. What do you think? What do you think this is? Is this the same thing or is it different? If you're dealing with roots, is this the same root? So they had a lot of verbalization, a lot of talk, a lot of cooperation, where the men were basically, be quiet, the women were basically, let's talk and have a conversation about it, because we have to understand what we're dealing with here. We don't want to get the wrong thing. And many times when, in an omnivorous diet, when you encounter different types of compounds in nature, you encounter different types of mutagens, steroids, sterols, different compounds that may deal with menses and menstruation and having child and not having child, you know, because the biggest birth control pill is made out of sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, some call it wild yam. If you don't want to get pregnant, things like that, women take wild yam so that they don't, so it interrupts their cycle. So in encountering these new foodstuffs, and we're going to move into it real quick, we encountered certain hallucinogenic compounds in our environment, the psychedelic dynamic. Something living in the world that we live in that we only see in the negative sense. You know, we say, oh man, LSD, people jumping out of windows. But we had an encounter with a particular mushroom. It's called Stropharia cubensis. It is crophyllid. In other words, it grows on cow dung. It loves cow dung. This is where it comes from. But if you understand the relationship between the cow and Africa and us and Africans, and I know most folks say, well, I'm lactose intolerant. I can't, I drink a glass of milk and I mess my pants up. But the thing is that the milk that we get nowadays is not milk anyway. It's a composite of different things taken out and reconstructed. Cow's milk has the enzyme to digest cow's milk in it if you get raw cow's milk, not pasteurized, homogenized, deodorized, fragrancized, and all the other knives that they do for the so-called milk that we get. You know, when we were in the Gambia, we came to the village and the people came out dancing and they gave us the drink of the village. It was raw milk, straight out the cow, you know, and you got to drink it. You know, you stand there talking about you're in Vegas and stuff like that, and the people were standing there, please, you've come to our village, have milk. You know, so you got to drink this milk, you know, and pass it on. But the thing is that our relationship with the cow and our relationship with the cow dung is that the females looking and searching for different sources of food encountered this mushroom. Now, this mushroom is, I like to call the cow mushroom. But if we understand the Kemetic symbology and then the Indian symbology of the sacred cow and the Het Haru, this mushroom symbolically is the Kemetic dynamic of the hallucinogen that was utilized before the city-state of Kemet and others came about. I'm talking about, we think many times that the fall of the African man and woman came about 500 years ago with slavery. What I'm throwing into the mix is that our fall came before Kemet. In other words, that when Kemet came, we were already in the fall. When we see the priesthood and the pyramids and the Sphinx and the great things of Kemet, we were already on the decline. That's when we didn't know what we were doing. When we built those things and did the things in Kemet. We had already failed. Now, you know, you have to look at the difference between two different dynamics of the way people think human beings are on earth. Some people think we're fallen angels. Others think we're risen apes. It's for you to decide who you are according to your DNA, whether you're a risen ape or a fallen angel. But if whatever it is, we're on the way, we're on the rise now. Because out of the darkness, out of the chaos, out of the lowest state comes the rise and the greatness of anything. It always comes out of the death. We're in the stage now where we like a moth in a cocoon or a butterfly in a cocoon. We thinking we're doing bad. We thinking we're having problems. And we are, because we are right in the middle of it. But the thing is, we just get ready to hit the right enzymes to break out of this cocoon so that we can fly spiritually, physically, and all the other dynamics that we're talking about being full human beings. Because we haven't been full human beings since the Neolithic period. The Neolithic period, for those folks, is the New Stone Age. For 10,000 years. We've been falling for 10,000 years because we have not done what the ancestors did. What broke the ancestors out in consciousness from a very primal state to a state of heightened spirituality was hallucinogens, the different power plants that were taken and ingested that opened up and accessed the melanin. If we took all the information that has been in all the melanin conferences that we've had, if we take all the information that we can get in the libraries and the medical institutions and put all that melanin information together, and you had 50 cents, you couldn't buy a cup of coffee because no one is telling you how to access it. No one is telling you, oh, we have melanin. And so what? With that and 50 cents, won't buy you a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. How do we access melanin? How do we get into it so that we can do these things that people are talking about? The melanin makes you more spiritual. It makes you this and that. But how do we access it? Nobody's saying that. Nobody's talking about how to get into it. And what I'm saying is that what we're missing is the numinosum, or the mystery. How this mushroom that I'm talking about, the Stropharia cubensis mushroom, how it symbolically hooks up with the later chemic dynamic is that this mushroom symbolically it gives us Haru and Het Haru. At low doses, the psilocybin cubensis mushrooms gives visual acuity. In other words, at small doses, it makes you see better. That means that you can view reality, our regular everyday reality, better, more clearly. And at a hunting and gathering stage, you can see the plant more clearly, or you can see the animal more clearly. It's sharp.